Hi friends, welcome to this episode of Yarnyheart Fiber Art. My name is Jess. You can find me on Instagram at yarnyheart, and this is the show where I talk about all the yarny things that I've been up to. So first, just a very quick life update to address the elephant in the room. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. So I am wearing my There and Back Again cardigan that I talked about on the previous episode. So I'm not really going to talk about the yarn or anything, but I wear this cardigan all the time because it is my new favorite cardigan. It's just really cozy and easy to throw on. Without further ado, let's get into the knitting. First, with my whips, just wanted to give an update on my book club cardigan by Sari Nordlund. It's going quite well, as you can see. I've already done the split for sleeves, and so now I'm just working on the body. And it's coming along really well. It's gotten to a point also where I've more or less memorized the cable pattern. So I'm not really referencing the pattern a whole lot anymore, but now that it is just kind of like working on the body back and forth, it is a quite long row. So it's just kind of taking me a while to get through each row, but I'm really enjoying this knit. I was really in the mood for something cozy and cable-y. And I've been wanting to cast this one on for a while, so I'm really happy to be working on it. The yarn that I'm using for this is Swish Worsted by Knit Picks. And this is in the colorway Lost Lake Heather. It's this really like deep forest green. And you can see I really love Knit Picks heathered colorways. There's just a lot of depth to them. I'm really enjoying this. So this is 100% fine superwash merino wool. And as I mentioned, it is at a worsted weight, but it's knitting up really nicely. The last project that I used Swish worsted for was this mostly stockinette raglan. I talked about it on my previous episode as well. And that one kind of felt very heavy and not very structured. And I feel like the yarn was kind of not holding up as well. It was kind of like weighing itself down. But I don't really feel that way with this project. I feel like the cables and the texture are really giving it a lot more structure that is really helping to keep the yarn and the garment together more. I have steam blocked the top part of this. I steam blocked it kind of right as I separated for sleeves because I was a little bit concerned about the armhole depth. But once I blocked it and then I was able to try it on as it is now, it is okay. It's not as loose as it is on other projects that I really like the fit of, but I don't think it's going to be too tight, especially once I wet block this. It should open up more than even with the steam block that I did. So I'm confident that the fit is going to be okay. So it's a really beautiful pattern. Sari Nordlund's patterns are always very well written in my opinion. And it's charted. The charts are easy to follow. And it's just a really yummy texture overall. What's really nice also is that the cables are not too complicated. Like I've heard this feedback from a lot of people who've knitted this cardigan, that even though it looks complicated, it's actually a very easy cable pattern. Because there's basically just this herringbone cable, and then these big cables are like a 2x1. So I'm actually not even using a cable needle for the big cables. I am for this one just to make it a little neater. But even like for instance, if I was taking this somewhere and I forgot my cable needle, I could still definitely work on it and just not use a cable needle for the herringbone cable. I'm just kind of preferring to. And to be honest, I might lose patience as this goes on and just I might just end up foregoing the cable needle for that herringbone cable anyway. So we'll see how it goes, but I really like it. I've found that I'm quite a fan of this kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Contiguous construction. Where you kind of start with the back yoke and then you pick up for each shoulder and then kind of like do the shaping from there. I found that I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this kind of sweater construction. And so far it's shaping up to be kind of similar to my botanist cardigan that I made a couple years ago at this point, by Thea Coleman. It's working up to be fairly similar, but where I cropped my botanist cardigan by quite a bit, I don't really want to crop this one too much. Knowing myself, I probably will end up cropping it at least a little bit, just because typically knitting the full length for any sweater is just way too long for me. So I'll probably end up cropping it a little bit, but where my botanist cardigan kind of hits like just a little bit below my belly button, I wouldn't want this to be quite as high as that. I feel like I might end up with more wearability if it's just maybe more so like just above my hips. So that's kind of what I'm envisioning for this one. But of course it will also depend on how much yarn I have left when I get to that point. So yeah, I feel like there's not a whole lot else to say about this one. It's just kind of chugging along as it is, but it's really nice. I'm very much enjoying it. It is going to get really warm this week, and it seems like we're kind of getting, I feel like it's fool's spring right now, but I do feel real spring kind of nipping at my heels. So I do feel like I'm racing against spring a little bit to finish this, but I'm hoping that if I can kind of just like sit down and dedicate some time to this. I've been very busy the past couple of weeks with work, personal life things, and so I haven't really had a whole lot of time to sit down and knit in the past few weeks specifically, but I'm really hoping to be able to sit down and get some good progress on this, and hopefully finish it before the weather gets too warm for me to wear it once it's done. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at with this one, and this is my book club cardigan. I also do have a new cast on to share, and this one is for my fiance. So weird to say that now, he's my fiance. I'm currently working on the yoke. These needles are a little small, but hopefully you can still see it kind of okay. But I am knitting the King Salmon Light sweater by, oh my gosh, it's Boyland Knitworks, but what's her? Caitlin Hunter, that's her name. So this is the King Salmon Light sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I think the main difference between the two patterns, King Salmon and King Salmon Light, is just that this one's fingering weight. I think the other one might be worsted weight, but it also has a deeper yoke. And I know for him, he would want the fit with a much more traditional yoke. And so the King Salmon Light sweater has kind of more of that traditional yoke. And I've heard from other creators who've knitted the regular King Salmon sweater that the yoke depth was too exaggerated for them. Personally, I really like a circular yoke. I think they look really good on me, especially kind of with like I feel like the yoke on this cardigan is pretty deep as well for a circular yoke sweater, but I find that kind of a fit pretty flattering for me personally. But I know for him, he probably would prefer having a more traditional circular yoke. So we're doing the King Salmon Light, but it's coming along really well. I really love doing color work. And every time I do color work, I always say to myself, wow, I really miss doing color work. I should do more color work. And so I was kind of feeling the itch to cast something on, and feeling the itch to cast something on that was color work. And so I just went ahead and casted this on because I'd had the yarn for this already, or at least the blue. The white color is yarn that I purchased in Korea very recently. So I was kind of waiting on that, but it wasn't like something that I wasn't waiting to go to Korea to get that yarn, if you know what I mean, because it was just a white yarn that I could have picked up anywhere. So I was very excited to get a start on this. And part of the thought process also, because with these kinds of like color work yoke sweaters, once you finish the yoke, the project is pretty much just stockinette for the rest of the time. And with me having the book club cardigan as my other project that's on the needles right now, I kind of wanted to have something that was plain stockinette so that I could have it as my knit night project, and kind of like my brain off project, if you know what I mean. Because particularly when I go to knit nights or knitting in-person events, I like to bring something that is just stockinette so that I can knit while talking and not have to worry about counting stitches or following a pattern or anything. So I didn't have anything like that currently, so I really wanted to start this sweater so that once I'm finished with the yoke especially, I'll have something mindless stockinette that I can just take anywhere. So that's kind of this, but he's very excited. He's been wanting this sweater for a while, so I'm very excited to have gotten started on this finally. My only concern, and I feel like it might be okay once I do a full wet block, I did steam block this just to kind of see how it would be. My only concern is that my cast on edge might have been a little bit too tight. It fits over my head, but I'm kind of waiting to see if maybe the weight of the full sweater will kind of stretch it out a little bit more. That's kind of my only concern, but at its full stretch, it is large enough to fit over my head, which means it'll be large enough to fit over his head. So I'm hoping that that will be the case, but I really like how it's turning out so far. The salmon motif is very fun. And it's delightful. I really love having a delightful color work motif to work on. So the colors that I'm using for this, the white is the Nakyang sock yarn that I picked up in Korea. I talked about this yarn in my previous video about shopping in Korea, and if you haven't seen that video, I'm going to put a card on the screen. So please go ahead and check that one out, because shopping for yarn in Korea is always so fun, and I really like sharing about my yarn hauls. To be completely transparent, that video is not doing too well. So if you're watching this one, you're interested in seeing that video, please go ahead and check that one out as well once you get done here. My fiance's favorite color is kind of like this, like, what would you call this? Like turquoise or like cyan, but like kind of this very vibrant blue-green color. And so this is La Bien Aimée Merino Super Sock, and this colorway is called Sophie. And in the previous episode, I talked about how I'd purchased a bunch of La Bien Aimée yarn from a local yarn store who was no longer going to be keeping their yarn in stock, and so that's where I purchased the yarn for this cardigan that I'm wearing currently. At the same time, I also purchased a sweater quantity of this Merino Super Sock in this color, specifically to have a sweater quantity to knit something for my fiance. And so, yeah, so I was just kind of waiting. We knew that he wanted the salmons, and then I was just kind of waiting to have like the space in my knitting queue, and then also picking up a white yarn to be the salmons on this background. So yeah, so it's been very fun, and that's just kind of my secondary project that I've got going on right now. Before sitting down to record this, because I had like enough new stuff, but I haven't really finished anything, and so I was hesitant to record this podcast at first because I was like, do I really have enough stuff to talk about to fill like a whole podcast episode? I do have one other thing that I'm working on, but I'm not allowed to talk about it yet. So that's also something that's like, yes, I'm working on it. It's in my knits, but I can't talk about it yet. So I can't put it in the podcast, but believe me, when I'm able to talk about it, I'll tell you about it. So because I was worried about not having enough content for this video, this sounds like so stupid now that I say it out loud, but I was worried about not having enough content to make this knitting podcast, and then also I haven't had a sock going in a while. If you know me, I usually like to have a sock just on the needles at all times, and I have a very portable little pouch that is the perfect size for 1 or 2 socks and 100 gram skein of yarn. So I usually have a sock going, but I haven't had a sock going, I think since leaving for Korea. I haven't casted on another sock, which is quite unlike me. And so I was like, you know what? I have been busy at work, and so I haven't really had much, like office knitting time. But I should cast on a sock because I have so much freaking sock yarn that I really need to start chewing through it at some point, and continuously, or it'll grow beyond my imagination. So I did cast on a sock today specifically to share in today's podcast. And I only have the cuff ribbing that I've started, and it's just a very simple half twisted rib for the cuff here, and a long tail cast on. The pattern, I forgot what it's called, I literally was just looking at it. So this pattern is called Wood Nymph, and it's by This Handmade Life, which is a free pattern, which is awesome. I'm sure it's by This Handmade Life. If it's not, I'll correct myself, but I'm like 98% sure it's by This Handmade Life. But this is a free pattern. I previously knitted her, oh my god, what are those socks called? I think they're called the Fairy Maiden socks, but that was also a free pattern. I finished those during the podcast hiatus, and so you haven't seen them on the podcast, but I really liked that pattern of hers. And like I said, that was also a free pattern. So I was kind of looking for something similar to use this yarn on, because those socks were also kind of like this hand-painted, variegated pattern, and I really liked the way that they came out, and that kind of like, it was kind of like a coquettish pattern. It had like, what's the word I'm looking for? It had like a ribbing element to it, and kind of like lace and cables, and I liked the way that it turned out. Like, it kind of broke up the pooling. It just looked really nice, and so I was looking for a similar pattern to that, where I didn't want anything that was like too heavily lacy. I kind of wanted something very simple that could let the yarn speak, but also have a little bit of interest, as opposed to just being a vanilla sock. So I found this pattern called Wood Nymph, and I just casted it on today. But I really like the way that this yarn is working up so far. So this is Woolen Works. I don't want to take the I don't want to take the ball band out from the middle of this cake. It's in there really nicely. But I remember correctly, this is Woolen Works, and I think the colorway is called Me as a Bird. I think this might have been an exclusive colorway for the Bay Area Yarn Crawl a couple years ago, for Firebird Yarns, where they were doing a trunk show in San Francisco. I think this might have been an exclusive colorway for the Yarn Crawl. But it's really pretty, and the yarn is super soft. So Woolen Works is based out of Australia, and so they use this kind of like, I don't know how they classify it necessarily, but it's a very extra fine merino. And actually my fiance was telling me about this, because he has 2 degrees in animal science, and so I remember when we went to the store looking at yarn, we were feeling all the skeins, and he felt this one. He's like, oh, it's so soft, and he's like, they're from Australia. Merino sheep from Australia are known for having really soft wool, and I was like, oh my gosh, he taught me something. So I don't know if that's true. I mean, I'm assuming it's true. I don't think he would have said it if it wasn't true, but I mean, it certainly feels that way. This is probably the softest merino yarn that I've ever worked with, honestly. And I forgot I had it in stash, to be completely honest. But it's a really beautiful colorway. It's very rainbow sherbet-y. And in my memory, like after I bought this, I remember it being more vibrant, I think, than it actually is. Because the way it is now and how it's working up, it's very pastel, which I really like. I think I wasn't reaching for this one because I was kind of scared of all the colors, but it's actually more pastel than I remember, so it's very nice. Let's see, so the blend on this, if I remember correctly, is 80-20, so it's going to be 80% of that like super fine, extra fine, I forget how they classify it, that's extra fine merino wool, and then 20% nylon, so a very typical sock blend, but it's coming very well. And I'm really excited for how this one turns out. I think it's going to be really nice. This is a really squishy base, which is very exciting. yeah. So I suppose this is going to be a short podcast, or at least on the shorter end for me, in terms of how long my podcasts usually go, but you know, it's fine. I think it's okay. The last thing that I have to share with you is an acquisition, which I know that I said that I was like on a no buy after Korea, but I mean, I couldn't help myself. So on the day that this happened, my fiance took me up to Atelier Marin, which I had never been to before because it's really out of the way from where I am and where I usually hang out. So this is a store that I really kind of never thought I'd get the chance to go to because it was just kind of out there. But it's always been a member of the Bay Area Yarn Crawl, just not one that I ever thought I could realistically plan a route around. So this is up in San Rafael, and of course this is before I had any idea like what was actually going on that day. So I was just like, oh yay, we're going on a trip to the yarn store. But what I did end up getting is I got these two beautiful skeins of this hand-painted cotton yarn. Oh, is this hank coming out? Yeah, hold on. One sec. One of the hanks is coming out. I feel like this might end up being a bit of a nightmare to wind up, but I think that's a problem for future me. That's one thing that I've noticed about specifically, not this yarn, but specifically La Bien-Aimée, is for some reason, every time I've bought their yarn, I've had like the hardest time winding it up. Like it's just kind of like come weirdly twisted, but this kind of feels like it might also be weirdly twisted, but I think that's like I said, I think that's a problem for later me. Anyway, so I got these two gorgeous skeins. So this is a hand-painted cotton and lurex blend by, oh gosh, I bought this yarn last year, or this yarn brand last year, and I still don't know how to pronounce the name of their company, but I'm gonna say Araucania yarns. Hold on, I think it's Spanish, so ABCC, so Araucania yarn. I think that's what I'm going with here. But these are fingering weight, 400 meters in a skein. So I have a total of 800 meters here, which I was thinking would be enough for like some kind of lacy summer top, or potentially even like a larger shawl, or a very like open gauge like short sleeve cardigan or something. I don't know, but two skeins of this, and this is 94% cotton and 6% lurex. Oh, and the yarn itself is called Huasco Coton Glisten, because it glistens, I suppose. But yes, it's hand painted cotton. Does this have a color name? No, it just has a color number. So the color number is 3001. But it's so pretty. Because the last time that I worked with a lurex blend like this was when I made my Clara cardigan, which was a crochet cardigan. And that was a couple years ago at this point, but I really loved the way that the yarn came out as I was doing it. And you know, I could make the joke again that everything I make is purple. But I at least this time I bought it consciously. Like I was looking at all the other colors, and all the other colors were kind of very similar to like this kind of color palette. And I just thought it was too variegated for me to really make anything wearable out of it, or at the very least anything that I would wear personally. But this lavender color with just kind of like that sprinkle of fuchsia in there really spoke to me. And so I think that this will turn into something very nice for summer. Because that's the other thing, is I stocked up on pretty much all of my winter woolly kind of yarn from Korea, but I didn't really buy any more summer yarn. I have a couple batches of summer-ish yarn left over from last year, but I don't really have a whole lot of summer yarn right now. So when I saw this, I thought it would be a really good addition. But like I said, when I bought this, I still had no idea that like anything was up. And so I kind of bought this just with the intention of like, oh, I'll just make something out of it. I don't know, you know, like some kind of lacy swimmer top. 800 meters should be enough for some kind of, you know, lacy top like that. But now that I have this like really nice special memory and day associated with when I bought this yarn, now I kind of feel the need to like make something really special out of it. But I'm not really sure yet what that looks like, and obviously I don't need to decide right away. But if you have any ideas with what I could or should do with 2 skeins of fingering weight, hand-painted cotton sparkly yarn that I bought on a very special day, if you have any ideas of any patterns that I could make with this, I've kind of been browsing on Ravelry, but I haven't seen anything that really jumped out at me as something that I really wanted to make with this yet. I'm also considering self-drafting something. But as of right now, I'm not sure if I want it to be like a summer top that I would wear as a top. I'm also not sure if I want to potentially make it into like some kind of shawl or like cover up or cardigan that I could incorporate into my big day whenever that is. I don't know. I'm not even thinking about that right now. But those are all options that I'm considering. And obviously no need to dig into this just yet. I have plenty of other things to do. But yeah, if you have any ideas, I'm gladly open to suggestions. That is truly all that I have for you today. Like I said, a shorter episode, but I feel like I had enough progress and enough new shiny things to share that it warranted sitting down for an episode. But yeah, I'm kind of in this weird limbo right now where I don't have anything that's finished and I don't really have anything that's like close to finished. So I'm just kind of like chugging on all of my whips that I've got going on. That's kind of where I'm at. So thank you so much for coming with me on this journey. And listening to all of the knitting stuff that I've got going on right now. I really appreciate your support. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to my channel for more content. I can't wait to share my next progress update with you. Hopefully all these things will be a little further along. Hopefully at least one of them will be finished so I can actually show off something finished. I would hope that it would be finished at that point because you know, I need to get started on my things for spring and I need to finish up the things that are winter. So hopefully there will have been some movement in the knitting pipeline next time that we talk. But until that next time that we talk, take care and I'll see you very soon. Bye.